Ambassador Zephyria's crystalline fingers trembled as she approached the human delegation's quarters aboard the neutral space station. The Galactic Council had debated for months about this unprecedented request, and now the moment of truth had arrived. Her species, the Vaylani, were known throughout the galaxy for their careful diplomatic nature, but even she felt uncertain about what they were asking of humanity. The corridor hummed with the station's life support systems, a constant reminder that they were floating in the void between star systems, far from any homeworld. Zephyria's translator implant buzzed softly as she rehearsed the words she would speak to the humans. This request was unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever made to a species so new to their community. Humanity had joined the galactic community only 3 years ago, after their first faster-than-light ship stumbled into Karathi space near what humans called the Alpha Centauri system. The discovery had sent shockwaves through the established order. Here was a species that had developed FTL travel independently, without guidance from the ancient races that typically shepherded new civilizations into the fold. What made humans even more remarkable was their planet of origin. Earth was a death world by galactic standards, with crushing gravity, a corrosive atmosphere containing free oxygen, and weather patterns that could kill most galactic species within minutes. The fact that humans had not only survived but thrived in such conditions made them an object of intense scientific interest and, if Zephyria was honest, considerable fear among some council members. The door to the human quarters slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a spacious chamber decorated with what the humans called houseplants. Zephyria marveled at their ability to keep living organisms from their homeworld alive in artificial environments. Most species found such practices barbaric or impossible, but humans seemed to find comfort in surrounding themselves with other Earth life. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood as Zephyria entered, her movements fluid despite the station's artificial gravity being set to accommodate the majority Karathi physiology. Humans adapted quickly to different gravitational fields, another trait that set them apart from most galactic species. Sarah's dark hair was pulled back in what humans called a ponytail, and her brown eyes held a warmth that Zephyria found both comforting and slightly unsettling. "Ambassador Zephyria," Sarah said, her voice carrying through the universal translator with remarkable clarity. "Please have a seat. I understand you have an unusual request to discuss." Zephyria settled onto the chair that had been specially designed for her crystalline physiology, her faceted body catching the chamber's soft lighting. "Indeed, Ambassador Chen. What we are about to ask has never been requested of any species in the Council's recorded history." Sarah leaned forward slightly, her expression curious rather than concerned. This was another human trait that fascinated the galactic community, their apparent lack of fear when faced with the unknown. "I'm listening. The Council has been studying human culture extensively since your admission to our community," Zephyria began, her words carefully chosen. "We have learned of your remarkable relationship with other species from your homeworld, specifically your practice of keeping what you call pets." Sarah's eyebrows rose slightly, but she remained silent, allowing Zephyria to continue. "This concept is almost entirely foreign to galactic civilization," Zephyria explained. "Most species either consume other life forms for sustenance or avoid them entirely. The idea of forming emotional bonds with non-sapient creatures from one's homeworld is virtually unknown outside of human culture." The Vaylani ambassador paused, gathering her thoughts. "However, recent psychological studies conducted by the Ethereal Sciences Division have revealed something troubling. Many species within our galactic community suffer from what your human psychologists would call depression and anxiety. These conditions have become increasingly prevalent as our civilizations have advanced technologically, but grown more isolated from the natural worlds that birthed us." Sarah nodded slowly, beginning to understand where this conversation was heading. "And you believe that human pets might help with these issues?" "Precisely," Zephyria confirmed. "Our scientists theorize that the human practice of pet ownership might provide the emotional and psychological benefits that our species have lost in our transition to advanced technological societies. The companionship, the sense of responsibility, the unconditional affection that you describe receiving from your pets, these could be revolutionary for galactic mental health." The human ambassador sat back in her chair, processing this information. "That's certainly an interesting theory. But I have to ask, Have your scientists considered the practical implications? Earth animals have evolved in a very specific environment. They might not survive in the artificial habitats most galactic species prefer. We have considered this extensively, Zephyria replied. Our environmental engineers are confident they can create suitable habitats for Earth creatures. What we lack is knowledge of which species would be most suitable as companions for different galactic races. Sarah stood and walked to the viewing port, looking out at the stars beyond. This is a significant request, Ambassador. You're asking us to essentially export our native wildlife to potentially hundreds of different worlds and space habitats. The ecological and ethical considerations alone are staggering. We understand the magnitude of what we ask, Zephyria said, her crystalline voice taking on a more urgent tone. But the mental health crisis affecting our galactic community grows worse each year. Suicide rates among several species have reached critical levels. Traditional treatments have proven ineffective. We need something entirely new, and humanity's relationship with Earth animals represents our best hope. The human ambassador turned back to face Zephyria, her expression thoughtful. If we were to consider this request, we would need guarantees. Comprehensive care instructions, environmental requirements, breeding protocols, medical care standards. We wouldn't just be giving you animals, we'd be entrusting you with Earth's children. Naturally, Zephyria agreed quickly. The Council is prepared to establish the most rigorous care standards in galactic history. We would also want human advisors and veterinarians to oversee the program. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, considering the implications. The request was unprecedented, but the potential benefits could be enormous. If pets could truly help alleviate the mental health crisis affecting galactic civilization, humanity would be providing a gift beyond measure. I'll need to consult with Earth's government and our xenobiology experts, Sarah finally said. This isn't a decision I can make unilaterally, but I can promise you that we'll give your request the serious consideration it deserves. Zephyria's crystalline form seemed to shimmer with relief. That is all we can ask, Ambassador Chen. The Council eagerly awaits humanity's response. As the Veilani ambassador departed, Sarah remained at the viewing port, watching the stars and wondering what they had just set in motion. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the center of Earth's most secure xenobiology facility, surrounded by holographic displays showing hundreds of Earth species. The emergency council session had lasted 14 hours, with representatives from every major nation and scientific institution weighing in on the Galactic Council's unprecedented request. Now, as Earth's leading animal behaviorist and xenobiologist, she had been tasked with the impossible, selecting Earth animals suitable for alien companionship. The facility hummed with activity as her team worked around the clock to compile comprehensive databases on potential candidate species. Elena's assistant, Dr. James Park, approached with a steaming cup of coffee and a worried expression. The preliminary assessments are coming in, James said, his tablet displaying scrolling data streams. The psychological profiles the Galactic Council provided are fascinating, but they're also terrifying. Some of these species have empathy levels so low they barely register on our scales, while others are so emotionally sensitive that loud noises can cause permanent psychological trauma. Elena nodded grimly, scrolling through the alien psychological profiles on her display. The Karathi were logical but emotionally stunted, requiring creatures that could provide affection without overwhelming their delicate sensory systems. The Nethys were highly empathetic, but suffered from severe anxiety disorders that had worsened as their civilization advanced. The crystalline Veilani experienced emotions as harmonic vibrations, making traditional companion animals potentially incompatible with their physiology. What about the environmental requirements? Elena asked, pulling up atmospheric composition charts for dozens of different alien habitats. That's where it gets complicated, James replied, his expression growing more concerned. Most galactic species live in sterile, climate-controlled environments with artificial gravity, recycled atmosphere, and no natural weather patterns. They've essentially eliminated every variable that makes Earth environments challenging. Elena paused her scrolling and looked at her assistant. You're thinking what I'm thinking, aren't you? That we might be about to introduce Earth predators into environments where they'll have no natural checks on their behavior? James confirmed. Elena, even our most docile pets are descended from hunters. A house cat's hunting instincts don't disappear just because it's been domesticated. What happens when we put that cat in an environment where it's the apex predator? The implications were staggering. Earth animals had evolved in constant competition with other predators, in environments where survival required adaptability, cunning, and often violence. Galactic species had evolved in much more stable conditions, leading to civilizations that prioritized cooperation and technological advancement over individual survival skills. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the facility's genetics specialist, joined their conversation with her own tablet full of data. I've been analyzing the physiological reports on galactic species, and there's something else we need to consider. Most of them are significantly weaker than humans, both physically and in terms of immune systems. They've lived in sterile environments for so long that their natural disease resistance has atrophied. Meaning, Helena prompted, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Meaning that Earth animals, even small ones, might be physically capable of harming their alien companions in ways we haven't considered. A playful kitten's claws could seriously injure a Nethys. A dog's enthusiastic greeting could break a Veilani's crystalline structure. Elena walked to the massive viewing screen displaying Earth's biodiversity. Thousands of species scrolled past. Mammals, birds, reptiles, fish, insects, and countless others. Each had evolved unique survival strategies, most of which involved some form of predation or defensive capability. We need to think about this differently, she said finally. The Galactic Council is asking for pets, but they don't understand what that word really means in the context of Earth evolution. James looked confused. What do you mean? Think about how humans domesticated animals, Elena explained, her mind racing. We didn't just randomly pick creatures and call them pets. We selected species that could benefit from symbiotic relationships with us. Dogs helped us hunt and protected our territories. Cats controlled rodent populations in our grain stores. Even decorative fish served purposes in controlled aquatic ecosystems. But galactic species don't hunt, Yuki pointed out. Most of them synthesize their nutrition or consume plant matter that's been processed to remove any trace of natural variability. They don't have grain stores to protect or territories to guard. Exactly, Elena said, her excitement building. They're asking for something they don't understand based on observing benefits they can't comprehend. They see humans with pets and notice improved mental health, but they don't understand that our relationship with animals is built on millions of years of coevolution. The team fell silent as the implications sank in. The Galactic Council wanted the benefits of pet ownership without understanding the fundamental nature of the relationship between humans and animals. Dr. Sarah Kim, the facility's behavioral psychologist, had been quietly reviewing psychological profiles at a nearby workstation. She approached the group with a tablet displaying neural activity scans from various galactic species. I've been comparing these alien brain scans with human neural patterns during pet interactions, she announced. There are some significant differences in how they process emotional bonding and social hierarchies. What kind of differences? Elena asked. Humans establish dominance hierarchies naturally. It's part of our social structure. When we interact with pets, we unconsciously establish ourselves as the alpha, while still providing care and affection. But look at these Karathi scans. Sarah indicated a series of geometric patterns on her screen. They don't process dominance relationships the same way. Their social structure is based on logical consensus rather than hierarchical authority. So they might not be able to properly control a pet's behavior, James realized. Worse than that, Sarah continued. Some of these species, particularly the ethereals, have neural patterns that suggest they would instinctively submit to any creature that displays dominant behavior. They could end up being controlled by their pets rather than the other way around. Elena stared at the data, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Earth's government had authorized the pet exchange program based on preliminary assessments, but the deeper they dug into the biological and psychological realities, the more dangerous the program appeared. We need to be incredibly careful about which animals we select, she said finally. And we need to be honest with the Galactic Council about what they're really asking for. What if we start small? Yuki suggested. Select a few species that seem least likely to cause problems and run controlled trials? Elena nodded slowly. Draft a list of the most docile herbivores we can think of. Rabbits, guinea pigs, maybe some of the smaller bird species. Animals with minimal predatory instincts and maximum appeal. As her team dispersed to begin compiling the preliminary selection list, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. The Galactic Council's request seemed straightforward, but the more she learned about alien psychology and physiology, the more she suspected that even Earth's most innocent creatures might prove to be more than the galaxy was prepared to handle. The question wasn't whether Earth animals would make good pets for aliens. The question was whether aliens would survive being pets to Earth animals. The first exchange ceremony took place on the neutral station Harmony's Rest, a gleaming structure that orbited between the Sol system and Karathi space. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the station's main cargo bay, watching as her carefully selected team of Earth animals arrived in specialized transport containers designed to maintain Earth-like conditions during the journey. 6 months of preparation had led to this moment. The initial selection had been conservative: 12 rabbits, 8 guinea pigs, 6 budgerigars, 4 goldfish, and 2 carefully selected domestic cats that had undergone extensive behavioral modification training. Each animal had been chosen for its docile nature, predictable behavior patterns, and minimal care requirements. Ambassador Zephyria approached with a delegation of representatives from 5 different galactic species. Her crystalline form reflected the cargo bay's lighting as she observed the transport containers with obvious fascination. "These are the creatures that will heal our civilizations?" asked Tribune Corex, a Karathi, whose metallic exoskeleton gleamed under the artificial lighting. His species communicated primarily through electromagnetic pulses, making his translated speech sound oddly mechanical. "We're starting with the most manageable species," Elena explained, activating the first transport container. "The rabbits, for instance, are herbivorous, gentle, and respond well to routine care." The container's transparent walls retracted, revealing a brown and white rabbit sitting calmly in a bed of earth grass. The alien delegation leaned forward with intense curiosity, their various sensory organs focused on the small creature. "It's so small," whispered Counselor Thess, a Nethys whose translucent blue skin shimmered with nervous energy. "Are you certain it's alive? It's not moving very much." "Rabbits are naturally calm when they feel safe," Elena assured her. "Watch this." She reached into the container and gently stroked the rabbit's fur. The animal's nose twitched and it leaned slightly into the contact. The reaction from the alien delegation was immediate and varied. Zephyria's crystalline structure began resonating with harmonic frequencies that Elena's translator identified as excitement. Tribune Corex's electromagnetic field fluctuated rapidly, and Counselor Theiss's skin began cycling through different shades of blue. "The emotional resonance is remarkable," Thess breathed. "I can feel its contentment." "How is this possible?" Dr. Park, who had accompanied Elena as part of the human advisory team, pulled up a holographic display showing brain activity scans. "Mammals have evolved sophisticated emotional expression systems. Their facial features, body language, and even biochemical emissions communicate their emotional states to other creatures." "But how do we know what it needs?" asked Engineer Voss, a mechanical syntherian whose cybernetic enhancements clicked softly as he processed the information. "Our species have eliminated uncertainty from our care protocols. How do we care for something that cannot communicate its requirements precisely?" Elena smiled, recognizing the fundamental misunderstanding that lay at the heart of the galactic community's request. "That's exactly what makes them effective companions. Caring for a pet requires intuition, observation, and emotional intelligence. You have to learn to read their signals and respond appropriately." She demonstrated by offering the rabbit a piece of carrot. The animal's immediate interest, the way its ears perked up, and its gentle acceptance of the food provided a clear example of interspecies communication that didn't require words or technology. "May I attempt interaction?" Zephyria asked, her harmonic frequencies indicating uncertainty mixed with eagerness. "Certainly, but remember what we discussed about gentle movements and soft sounds," Elena cautioned. Zephyria extended one crystalline appendage toward the rabbit, moving with careful deliberation. Her species communicated through vibrational frequencies, and she had been practicing modulating her natural harmonic emissions to avoid overwhelming the Earth creature. The rabbit's reaction surprised everyone. Instead of showing fear or withdrawal, it appeared curious about Zephyria's crystalline structure. When her appendage came close enough, the rabbit actually sniffed it, then pressed its nose against the smooth crystal surface. "Extraordinary," Zephyria whispered. her entire body beginning to resonate with what Elena's translator identified as pure joy. It trusts me. A creature from another world trusts me. Dr. Park documented the interaction on his tablet, noting the immediate psychological impact on the Velani ambassador. The bonding response appears to be nearly instantaneous. Zephyria's harmonic patterns indicate emotional states that our xenopsychologists have never recorded before. Tribune Corex stepped forward, his electromagnetic field pulsing with curiosity. I wish to understand this bonding mechanism. How does such a simple creature produce such complex emotional responses in intelligent beings? That's the beauty of it, Elena explained. Pets don't judge. They don't have complex motivations or hidden agendas. They respond to kindness with affection, to care with trust. For species that have grown isolated from natural emotional expressions, they provide a pure form of social interaction. The demonstration continued with the other animals. The guinea pigs proved popular with the Nethys delegation, whose empathic abilities allowed them to sense the small creature's contentment and social nature. The budgerigars fascinated the Karathi with their vocalizations and bright colors, while the goldfish provided a calming presence that seemed to resonate with several species. However, it was the cats that produced the most unexpected response. Elena had chosen 2 specific cats for their calm temperaments. Luna, a gray tabby known for her gentle nature, and Oliver, an orange tom who had been raised in a therapy animal program. Both had undergone months of conditioning to ensure they would remain calm in alien environments. When Elena activated their transport container, both cats emerged with typical feline curiosity, immediately beginning to explore their new surroundings. Luna approached the alien delegation directly, showing no fear of their unusual appearances. Remarkable, Tribune Corex observed. These creatures show no instinctive fear responses to our forms. How is this possible? Cats are naturally curious and adaptable, Elena explained. They evaluate situations based on immediate threat assessment rather than appearance. Luna had approached Counselor Thys and was now rubbing against the Nethys's leg, purring softly. The alien's translucent skin began shifting through warmer shades of blue, and her large eyes widened with wonder. The vibrations, Thys whispered. I can feel contentment radiating from this creature. It's choosing to share its emotional state with me voluntarily. But it was Oliver who provided the most dramatic demonstration of the program's potential. The orange cat had noticed a small maintenance drone hovering near the ceiling, performing routine atmospheric monitoring. With lightning-fast reflexes that surprised everyone present, Oliver leaped onto a nearby cargo container, then onto a structural beam, positioning himself to intercept the drone. Oliver, no, Elena called, but it was too late. The cat's hunting instincts had activated. He launched himself through the air with predatory precision, intercepting the drone in mid-flight and bringing it crashing to the floor in a tangle of metal and fur. The alien delegation stared in stunned silence as Oliver proudly sat next to his kill, purring loudly and looking extremely pleased with himself. Did that creature just successfully hunt our technology? Engineer Voss asked, his cybernetic systems clicking rapidly as he processed what had just occurred. Elena quickly retrieved Oliver, checking both the cat and the damaged drone. He's fine, just following natural instincts. I'm sorry about your equipment. Do not apologize, Tribune Corex said, his electromagnetic field pulsing with what Elena realized was excitement rather than concern. This demonstration has revealed capabilities we did not anticipate. This creature identified a moving target, calculated an intercept trajectory, and executed a successful capture maneuver using only biological systems. The delegation began chattering among themselves in their various languages, their excitement palpable. Elena felt a growing sense of unease as she realized the aliens weren't concerned about the drone's destruction. They were impressed by Oliver's hunting capabilities. Perhaps we should discuss the care requirements for these animals, Elena suggested, hoping to redirect the conversation back to the intended purpose of the program. But as she watched the alien delegation's reactions, she couldn't shake the feeling that they had misunderstood something fundamental about what Earth animals represented. They weren't just seeing cute, comforting companions. They were seeing something far more dangerous, the refined products of billions of years of predatory evolution, and they were fascinated. 3 months after the initial exchange, Dr. Elena Rodriguez received an urgent priority message from Ambassador Sarah Chen, aboard the Galactic Council's central station. The message contained a single line: "We have a problem. Come immediately." Elena arrived at the council station to find chaos in the diplomatic quarters. The typically serene Veilani delegation spaces were filled with unprecedented activity, while the Karathi section buzzed with electromagnetic chatter at frequencies that made Elena's translation implant struggle to keep up. Ambassador Chen met her at the docking bay, her usually composed demeanor showing obvious stress. "Elena, thank goodness you're here. The pet program has exceeded everyone's expectations, but not in the way we anticipated." They walked quickly through corridors filled with aliens moving with unusual urgency. Elena noticed something odd about many of them. They carried what appeared to be small transport cases, and several were wearing what looked suspiciously like pet carriers adapted for different alien physiologies. "Sarah, what exactly is happening here?" Elena asked as they entered a secure briefing room. "The pets are bonding with their alien companions exactly as predicted," Sarah began, activating a holographic display showing psychological assessment data. Depression rates among participating species have dropped by 60%. Anxiety disorders are at historic lows. The program is a massive psychological success. Then what's the problem? "The problem is what's happening to the aliens themselves," Sarah explained, pulling up a series of behavioral analysis reports. "They're not just keeping pets anymore, Elena. They're becoming protective of them in ways that are destabilizing galactic society." The first report showed Tribune Orcs, the Karathi representative who had been assigned one of the rabbits. The electromagnetic being had not only bonded with his pet, but had begun modifying his living quarters to create what he called optimal rabbit habitat conditions. This involved dismantling significant portions of the Karathi diplomatic station to install Earth-like environmental systems. Orcs has spent the equivalent of 3 million galactic credits converting his entire residential complex into a rabbit paradise, Sarah continued. He's imported Earth soil, grass, and even weather simulation systems. His government is concerned that he's prioritizing his pets' needs over his diplomatic duties. Elena scrolled through more reports, each more concerning than the last. Counselor Thys had not only bonded with her guinea pig, but had become obsessively protective of it. When another Nethys had approached too quickly, Thys had actually physically confronted them, behavior that was unprecedented in her species' peaceful society. "It gets worse," Sarah said, pulling up security footage from various alien stations. "Watch this." The holographic display showed Engineer Voss, the Syntherian who had been assigned one of the goldfish. His cybernetic enhancements had allowed him to monitor his pet with unprecedented precision, tracking every aspect of the fish's health and behavior. But the data showed that Voss had begun refusing diplomatic assignments that would take him away from his aquarium for more than a few hours. They're becoming emotionally dependent on creatures they've known for less than 3 months, Elena observed. This level of attachment seems extreme even by human standards. "That's not the worst part," Sarah continued grimly. "Show her the incident report from the ethereal delegation." Elena's blood ran cold as she read the report. The ethereals, who had been given budgerigars for their calming vocalizations, had experienced what could only be described as a territorial dispute. When a routine maintenance team had entered the ethereal quarters to perform standard system updates, the birds had become agitated by the unfamiliar presence. The ethereals' response had been swift and dramatic. They had activated their station's defensive systems, sealing off their entire section and threatening to use force against anyone who might threaten their companions. It had taken 6 hours of negotiation to convince them to allow the maintenance team to leave safely. "Ethereals are among the most peaceful species in the galaxy," Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They haven't engaged in violence for over 2,000 years. Until now," Sarah confirmed. "They've appointed themselves as guardians of their pets, and they interpret any potential threat to these animals as a direct attack on their territory." Elena sat back in her chair, processing the implications. "We fundamentally misunderstood what would happen. These species don't have the evolutionary background to handle the responsibility of caring for Earth animals without becoming emotionally overwhelmed." "It's worse than that," Sarah said, activating another display. "The psychological profiles are showing changes in brain chemistry that our xenobiologists have never seen before. These aliens are experiencing emotions that their species have never evolved to handle: protective instincts, territorial behavior, and what can only be described as parental bonding. The data was overwhelming. Every species involved in the PET program was showing unprecedented behavioral changes. The Velani were resonating at harmonic frequencies that had never been recorded in their history. The Karathi were developing electromagnetic field patterns that indicated emotional states their language didn't even have words for. "Ambassador Chen," Elena said slowly, "are you telling me that we've accidentally triggered an evolutionary psychological development in multiple alien species simultaneously?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you," Sarah confirmed. "And the galactic community doesn't know how to handle it." Elena pulled up the most recent reports from the various alien homeworlds. The behavioral changes weren't limited to the diplomatic staff who had direct contact with Earth animals. Word of the PET program had spread throughout galactic society, and demand for Earth animals had exploded beyond all projections. "Look at these requisition requests," Elena said, scrolling through thousands of applications. "The Karathi want to establish Earth animal breeding facilities on 12 different worlds. The Velani are requesting genetic modification rights to create hybrid Earth alien creatures. The Syntherian Collective is asking for permission to cybernetically enhance Earth animals to make them more efficient companions." "And that's just the official requests," Sarah added. "Intelligence reports suggest that several species are attempting to develop their own programs to capture or breed Earth animals without human oversight." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Sarah, are you telling me that we've accidentally created a galactic black market for Earth animals?" "Worse than that," Sarah replied, pulling up classified intelligence reports. "Some species are beginning to view Earth itself differently. If our animals have this kind of psychological impact, what other secrets might our planet hold? What other aspects of Earth evolution might benefit galactic civilization?" The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. They hadn't just introduced pets to the galaxy. They had demonstrated that Earth's evolutionary pressures had produced something unique and valuable that galactic civilization desperately wanted but couldn't understand or control. "The Galactic Council is requesting an emergency session," Sarah continued. "They want to discuss expanding the program, but several member species are expressing concerns about the psychological and social disruption we've caused." Elena stared at the data streams flowing across the holographic displays, watching as real-time reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy. Alien civilizations were reorganizing themselves around the care and protection of Earth animals. Social structures that had remained stable for millennia were shifting to accommodate the emotional needs of creatures from another world. "We opened Pandora's box," Elena said quietly. "We thought we were giving them cute, harmless companions. Instead, we introduced them to concepts their species have never experienced: unconditional love, protective instincts, and emotional bonds that transcend logical reasoning. And now they want more," Sarah added. "Much more." As Elena prepared for the emergency council session, she couldn't help but wonder what other requests the galactic community might make of humanity. They had asked for pets and received predators that conquered hearts and minds. What would they ask for next? And would humanity be prepared for the consequences of giving it to them? The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the Great Assembly Hall, a massive spherical chamber that could accommodate representatives from all member species. Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat in the human delegation section, watching as hundreds of alien representatives took their positions around the curved walls. The atmosphere was tense with an energy she had never experienced in previous council meetings. Chancellor Vexhai, the ancient ethereal who served as the council's primary moderator, floated at the chamber's center, their translucent form shimmering with what Elena had learned to recognize as agitation. The ethereals rarely displayed emotion, making the Chancellor's obvious distress particularly concerning. "The Council recognizes the gravity of the situation before us," Chancellor Vexhai announced, their voice carrying through the chamber's translation matrix in dozens of languages simultaneously. "The introduction of Earth animals to our civilizations has produced consequences that extend far beyond our initial projections." Tribune Orcs rose from the Karathi section, his metallic exoskeleton reflecting the chamber's ambient lighting. "Chancellor, with respect, the consequences have been entirely positive from our perspective. Our psychological health metrics have improved beyond all historical precedent. The Karathi Collective formally requests an immediate expansion of the Earth Animal Program. A wave of electromagnetic pulses rippled through the Karathi delegation, indicating their unanimous agreement. Elena noticed that several of them were wearing modified equipment that appeared to be designed for monitoring or communicating with small creatures. The Karathi position is noted. Chancellor Vexhai replied, but other perspectives must be considered. Administrator Kell of the Zephonian Trade Federation stood next, their insectoid form clicking with agitation. The economic disruption has been severe. Our productivity indices show significant declines across all participating species. Workers are requesting modified schedules to accommodate pet care responsibilities. Trade negotiations have been delayed because delegates refuse assignments that would separate them from their animals. Councillor Thiss rose gracefully from the Nethys section, her translucent blue skin cycling through deeper shades that Elena recognized as protective anger. Administrator Kell speaks of productivity as if it were more important than mental health. The Nethys have experienced the first generation in 3 centuries to show no signs of chronic anxiety disorders. Our suicide rates have dropped to 0. How do you measure the economic value of that? Elena watched the exchange with growing concern. The council chamber, traditionally a place of careful diplomatic dialogue, was beginning to feel more like a heated family argument. Species that had cooperated peacefully for millennia were taking sides based on their experiences with Earth. Animals, Ambassador Zephiria's crystalline form resonated with harmonic frequencies as she addressed the assembly. The Veilani delegation wishes to share our findings regarding the psychological mechanisms at work. Our harmonic specialists have discovered that Earth animals produce emotional resonance patterns that our species have never experienced. These patterns appear to activate dormant neural pathways that evolved during our species' pre-technological periods. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was called to the central speaking platform, her heart racing as she faced the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. Honorable delegates, I believe we need to address the fundamental misunderstanding that led to this situation. The chamber fell silent, hundreds of alien eyes, sensors, and perception organs focusing on her. When the council requested Earth animals as companions, you were seeking to replicate human psychological benefits without understanding the evolutionary context that makes those benefits possible, Elena explained. Humans evolved alongside these animals over millions of years. Our relationship with them is built on mutual adaptation and coevolution. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's evolutionary timeline. Your species have evolved in stable, controlled environments where survival didn't require the same emotional flexibility and bonding mechanisms that characterize Earth life. When you interact with our animals, you're experiencing emotions and psychological states that your species haven't felt for thousands of years. Engineer Voss's cybernetic systems clicked as he processed this information. Dr. Rodriguez, are you suggesting that our reactions to Earth animals represent some form of evolutionary regression? Not regression, Elena corrected. Awakening. These animals are triggering psychological capabilities that your species possessed before you developed advanced technology and sterile environments. The problem is that you're experiencing these primitive emotions without the cultural framework to manage them properly. Chancellor Vexhai's form shimmered with concern. What are the long-term implications of this psychological awakening? Elena hesitated, knowing that her next words could reshape galactic civilization. Based on our observations, species that bond with Earth animals begin to exhibit behaviors that prioritize emotional well-being over logical efficiency. They become protective, territorial, and emotionally invested in ways that can conflict with technological society's operational requirements. Tribune Corex's electromagnetic field pulsed with what Elena recognized as defensive anger. You speak as if emotional investment were a weakness rather than a strength. The Karathi have discovered joy through our relationship with Earth animals. Are you suggesting we should abandon this discovery? I'm suggesting that galactic civilization needs to decide what kind of society it wants to be, Elena replied carefully. Earth animals don't just provide companionship, they change the fundamental psychological makeup of the species that care for them. The chamber erupted in chaotic discussion as representatives began debating among themselves. Elena watched as ancient alliances strained under the pressure of conflicting viewpoints about the pet program's future. Ambassador Sarah Chen stepped forward to join Elena at the central platform. Perhaps we should consider a more gradual approach. Controlled studies, limited populations, careful monitoring of psychological changes. Unacceptable, declared Councillor Thys, her blue skin flashing with agitation. The Nethys will not allow our animals to be taken away based on theoretical concerns about productivity. We have found something precious that we will not surrender. Elena felt a chill as she realized the true scope of what they had unleashed. These weren't just alien species requesting pet ownership. They were civilizations discovering aspects of themselves they had forgotten existed. The protective instincts, the territorial behavior, the emotional bonding, these weren't side effects of the pet program. They were rediscovered evolutionary traits that Earth animals had awakened in species that had spent millennia suppressing them. There's something else we need to discuss, Elena said, her voice cutting through the chamber's noise. The animals themselves are changing too. The chamber fell silent again as Elena activated new displays showing behavioral analysis data from the Earth animals in alien care. Oliver, the cat that demonstrated hunting behavior during our initial exchange, has continued to evolve his hunting strategies. But he's not hunting Earth prey anymore. He's hunting alien technology. Luna has begun exhibiting protective behaviors toward her Veilani companion that go far beyond normal feline social bonding. Our animals are adapting to alien environments and alien psychology faster than we anticipated. The implications of this revelation rippled through the chamber. Earth animals weren't just providing companionship to alien species. They were evolving alongside them, developing new behaviors and capabilities in response to alien needs and environments. The question before us, Elena continued, is whether galactic civilization is prepared for the evolutionary pressure that Earth animals represent. Because this isn't just about pets anymore. This is about the fundamental nature of consciousness, emotion, and social bonding across species lines. Chancellor Vexhi's form pulsed with deep consideration. The Council will recess for deliberation. Representatives will consult with their homeworld governments before proceeding. As the assembly dispersed, Elena couldn't help but notice that many alien delegates were speaking into small communication devices, likely checking on the welfare of animals thousands of light years away. The pets had already won their first victory. They had made themselves indispensable to civilizations that prided themselves on logical independence. The real question wasn't whether the program would continue. The real question was what would happen when galactic civilization fully awakened to the predatory potential that lay hidden within Earth's most innocent creatures. 6 months had passed since the emergency council session, and Dr. Elena Rodriguez found herself aboard a heavily modified research vessel, orbiting the Karathi homeworld of Metalos Prime. What she witnessed through the ship's viewing ports defied everything she thought she knew about galactic civilization. The planet's surface, once a pristine grid of geometric cities connected by perfectly straight transport corridors, now showed patches of irregular green spaces scattered throughout the urban landscape. Atmospheric processors designed for optimal industrial efficiency had been modified to support Earth-compatible ecosystems. The logical perfection of Karathi city planning had given way to something more organic, more alive. It's remarkable, breathed Dr. Park, who had joined Elena for this follow-up assessment mission. They've essentially terraformed portions of their homeworld to accommodate Earth animals. Elena studied the data streaming across her displays. The changes weren't limited to environmental modifications. Social structures that had remained stable for 3,000 years were evolving at unprecedented speed. Karathi, who had never experienced leisure time, were now organizing their schedules around pet care. Workers were collaborating on projects they called enrichment activities for their animals, leading to innovations in technology that prioritized emotional well-being over pure efficiency. Tribune Orcs met them at the planetary spaceport. His metallic form now adorned with what appeared to be a specially designed harness carrying a small habitat module. Through the transparent aluminum window, Elena could see his rabbit, now grown sleek and healthy, observing its surroundings with bright, alert eyes. Dr. Rodriguez, Corex greeted them, his electromagnetic field pulsing with warm frequencies that Elena's translator interpreted as genuine happiness. Welcome to the new Metalos Prime. We are eager to show you what we have learned. As they traveled through the city in a transport pod, Elena noticed fundamental changes in Karathi behavior. Groups of metallic beings gathered in the new green spaces, their electromagnetic fields synchronized in patterns she had never seen before. They were communicating about their animals, sharing care techniques and behavioral observations with an enthusiasm that seemed to energize their entire society. Tribune Corex, Elena said carefully, our reports indicate that productivity in your industrial sectors has decreased by 40% since the introduction of Earth animals. Aren't your leaders concerned about economic impact? Corex's field pulsed with what Elena recognized as amusement. Dr. Rodriguez, you assume that productivity is measured only in manufactured goods and energy output. Our psychological productivity has increased by measures we never thought to calculate before. Innovation, creativity, problem solving. These have all improved dramatically. They stopped at what had once been a primary industrial complex. The massive facility had been converted into something that looked like a cross between a research center and an enormous pet sanctuary. Karathi engineers worked alongside Earth animals in ways that challenged every assumption about interspecies cooperation. Elena watched in amazement as a team of Karathi researchers collaborated with a group of cats to design new environmental monitoring systems. The cat's natural hunting instincts had been channeled into detecting mechanical failures and environmental hazards that sophisticated sensors had missed. Their ability to notice subtle changes in sound, vibration, and atmospheric conditions had proven invaluable for maintaining complex technological systems. They're not just keeping pets, Elena realized. They're forming working partnerships. Precisely, Corex confirmed. We discovered that Earth animals perceive aspects of our technology that we had overlooked. Their evolutionary instincts for detecting danger, tracking movement, and identifying environmental changes complement our technological capabilities perfectly. Dr. Park was recording everything, his expression shifting between fascination and concern. Corex, have you considered the long-term implications of this integration? Your society is becoming dependent on Earth animals for basic technological functions. Not dependent, Corex corrected, his field patterns indicating careful consideration. Enhanced. The animals enhance our capabilities without replacing them, but you are correct that our society is changing in ways we did not anticipate. They visited a residential complex where Elena witnessed something that made her question everything she thought she understood about consciousness and intelligence. An elderly Karathi named Flux was engaged in what could only be described as a conversation with his guinea pig. The small Earth creature was responding to electromagnetic patterns with specific behaviors, while Flux modified his field emissions based on the guinea pig's reactions. They're developing a hybrid language, Elena whispered to Dr. Park. The Karathi are learning to communicate through electromagnetic fields that Earth animals can sense and respond to. It goes deeper than language, Flux explained, having overheard their conversation. These creatures have taught us to perceive emotional information that we never knew existed. We are becoming more than we were before. Elena's tablet chimed with incoming reports from other worlds participating in the pet program. The patterns were consistent across all species. The Velani had developed harmonic resonance techniques that allowed them to share emotional states directly with their animals. The Nethys had discovered that their empathic abilities were amplified when filtered through Earth animal consciousness. The Ethereals were using their pets as emotional anchors, allowing them to experience and process feelings that had been suppressed for millennia. But the most disturbing report came from the Syntherian collective. Engineer Voss had requested a priority communication link to discuss what he termed unprecedented developments in the cybernetic integration program. Elena accepted the transmission, and Voss's heavily modified form appeared as a hologram. His cybernetic enhancements had been extensively modified, with new interfaces that Elena didn't recognize. Dr. Rodriguez, Voss began, his voice carrying emotional undertones that should have been impossible for a Syntherian. We need to discuss the evolution of our aquatic companions. The goldfish you provided have demonstrated capabilities that challenge our understanding of Earth neural architecture. Elena felt her blood chill. What kind of capabilities? Pattern recognition that exceeds our computational models, Voss explained. Memory formation that surpasses biological limitations. Most significantly, they appear to be developing problem-solving strategies that our artificial intelligence systems cannot replicate or predict. The hologram shifted to show Voss's aquarium. which had been expanded into a massive aquatic environment integrated with Syntherian technology. The goldfish swam through what appeared to be a three-dimensional computational matrix, their movements corresponding to data processing patterns that Elena couldn't begin to understand. Voss, are you telling me that your goldfish are helping you solve technological problems? I am telling you that our goldfish have surpassed us in solving technological problems, Voss corrected. They are processing information in ways that suggest Earth evolution, produced computational architectures that our cybernetic technology cannot match. Elena stared at the hologram, watching the goldfish navigate through complex data streams with casual efficiency. These weren't the simple decorative pets she had selected for their calm demeanor and low maintenance requirements. They had become something entirely new, something that challenged the fundamental assumptions about intelligence and consciousness that governed galactic civilization. There's something else, Voss continued. The fish have begun modifying our technological systems independently. They are improving our designs without instruction or guidance. We are no longer maintaining them. They are enhancing us. Elena closed the communication link and turned to face Tribune Orcs, who had been observing the exchange with obvious interest. Orcs, we need to discuss the possibility of ending the pet program, Elena said quietly. The Tribune's electromagnetic field flared with patterns Elena had never seen before. A complex mixture of protective anger, desperate fear, and resolute determination. Dr. Rodriguez, Orcs replied, his voice carrying harmonics that made Elena's translator struggle to keep up. That conversation ended the moment our animals chose to stay with us. You are welcome to try to remove them, but you will discover that they are no longer the creatures you gave us. They have become something more, and so have we. Elena looked around at the transformed Karathi city, at the impossible partnership between metallic aliens and Earth animals, at the fundamental reshaping of a civilization that had remained unchanged for millennia. She realized with growing horror that humanity hadn't given the galaxy pets. They had given them evolutionary catalysts that were rewriting the basic nature of consciousness across multiple species simultaneously, and there was no way to stop what they had started. 1 year after the PET program began, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the redesigned Galactic Council chamber, facing an assembly that bore little resemblance to the sterile diplomatic gathering she remembered. The chamber itself had been modified to accommodate the new reality of galactic civilization. Environmental controls now maintained multiple atmospheric zones. Gravity fields had been adjusted for optimal animal comfort, and the traditional geometric seating arrangements had been replaced with more organic configurations that allowed alien delegates to remain close to their Earth companions. Chancellor Vexhai floated at the chamber's center, but they were no longer alone. A small parakeet perched on a specially designed crystalline structure that resonated with the ethereal's harmonic frequencies. The bird's presence had transformed the ancient chancellor's demeanor from cold authority to something warmer, more accessible, more fundamentally alive. The council recognizes Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Chancellor Vexhai announced, their voice carrying new emotional undertones that would have been unthinkable a year ago. We have gathered to address the final questions regarding humanity's gift to our civilizations. Elena looked around the chamber, noting the profound changes in every delegation. Tribune Corex's rabbit had grown sleek and confident, its eyes bright with intelligence that seemed to mirror its companion's electromagnetic patterns. Counselor Theis's guinea pig had somehow learned to respond to Nethys' empathic emanations, creating a feedback loop of emotional communication that had revolutionized both species' understanding of consciousness. But it was the Syntherian delegation that represented the most dramatic transformation. Engineer Voss had undergone voluntary cybernetic modifications that allowed him to interface directly with his goldfish's neural patterns. The boundary between biological and artificial intelligence had blurred beyond recognition, creating a hybrid consciousness that neither species could have achieved alone. Dr. Rodriguez, Chancellor Vexhai continued, the Council wishes to formally thank humanity for providing the catalyst that has awakened our civilizations to possibilities we never imagined. However, we also need to address the concerns that led to this final assembly. Elena activated her holographic display, showing data that represented the culmination of her year-long investigation. Honorable delegates, what we've observed goes far beyond the original scope of the PET program. Earth animals haven't just provided companionship. They've triggered an evolutionary leap in consciousness that's affecting the fundamental nature of galactic civilization. The display showed neural activity patterns from dozens of alien species, all of whom had developed new brain structures and cognitive capabilities after bonding with Earth animals. Emotional processing centers that had been dormant for millennia were not only active but evolving at unprecedented rates. The psychological changes are permanent, Elena explained. Species that formed bonds with Earth animals have developed neural pathways that cannot be reversed. You've literally evolved into something new. Ambassador Sarah Chen, who had been observing from the human delegation section, stood to address the assembly. The question we need to answer is whether galactic civilization is prepared to accept these changes permanently, because there's no going back to what you were before. Tribune Corex rose, his rabbit sitting calmly in the specialized carrier attached to his metallic form. Ambassador Chen speaks as if evolution were something to be feared rather than celebrated. The Karathi Collective has voted unanimously to embrace our new path. We are better than we were before. But different, Elena emphasized. Fundamentally, irreversibly different. Your societies prioritize emotional well-being over pure efficiency. Your decision-making processes now include factors that have nothing to do with logical optimization. You've become protective, territorial, and emotionally invested in ways that could destabilize the carefully balanced systems that have maintained galactic peace for millennia. Engineer Voss's cybernetic systems hummed as he processed this information, his goldfish companions swimming through data streams in the portable aquatic interface he had developed. Dr. Rodriguez, you assume that stability and peace require the suppression of emotional complexity. Our research suggests the opposite, that true stability comes from embracing the full spectrum of consciousness, including aspects that logic alone cannot address. Elena pulled up her most concerning data, reports from across the galaxy showing the emergence of what could only be described as hybrid societies. Alien civilizations were no longer purely alien. They had begun incorporating Earth-like environmental design, Earth-compatible social structures, and decision-making processes that prioritized emotional well-being alongside logical efficiency. Look at these economic patterns, Elena said, highlighting data streams that showed resource allocation shifting toward projects that served no apparent logical purpose, but provided emotional satisfaction to pet-owning populations. Galactic productivity has decreased by 30% overall, but innovation and problem-solving capabilities have increased by measures we can't properly quantify. Counselor Thiss's translucent blue skin shimmered with defensive patterns as she addressed Elena's concerns. You measure productivity as if it were more important than happiness, efficiency as if it were more valuable than emotional fulfillment. The Nethys have discovered joy, Dr. Rodriguez. We have found purpose beyond mere survival and technological advancement. How do you calculate the value of that? Elena realized that she was fighting a battle that had already been lost. The alien species hadn't just bonded with Earth animals. They had chosen to become something new, something that incorporated Earth's evolutionary wisdom into their own development path. There's one more issue we need to discuss, Elena said, calling up her final set of data. The animals themselves are continuing to evolve. They're developing capabilities that go far beyond their original Earth parameters. The holographic display showed Oliver, the orange cat who had first demonstrated hunting behavior during the initial exchange. Over the past year, he had developed problem-solving abilities that challenged basic assumptions about feline intelligence. More concerning, he had begun teaching these skills to other cats in the program, creating a distributed network of enhanced Earth animals that were rapidly surpassing their original biological limitations. The animals are becoming something new too, Elena explained. They're adapting to alien environments and alien psychology in ways that suggest they're developing their own form of technological consciousness. We may have created a new form of hybrid intelligence that we don't understand and can't control. Chancellor Vexhi's parakeet chirped softly, and the ethereal's harmonic frequencies shifted in response. Dr. Rodriguez, you speak of control as if it were the most important consideration. But consciousness, True consciousness cannot be controlled. It can only be experienced, nurtured, and celebrated. Elena looked around the chamber one final time, seeing the transformed faces of galactic civilization. These weren't the sterile, purely logical beings she had first encountered. They had become something richer, more complex, more alive. The final question, Elena said, is what happens next? Galactic civilization has been permanently altered by contact with Earth evolution. You've awakened emotional and psychological capabilities that change the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. Are you prepared for the consequences of that transformation? Tribune Corex's electromagnetic field pulsed with patterns that Elena's translator interpreted as confident determination. Dr. Rodriguez, we asked humanity for pets, and you gave us evolution itself. We are not the same species we were a year ago, and we would not choose to return to what we were even if we could. The Council votes to formally accept the permanent changes to our civilizations, Chancellor Vexhai announced. We embrace the hybrid consciousness that Earth animals have awakened in us. We choose growth over stability, emotional complexity over logical simplicity, evolutionary potential over technological stagnation. As the Assembly voted unanimously to accept their transformation, Elena realized that humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They hadn't just joined galactic civilization, they had fundamentally reshaped it by sharing the most basic gift Earth had to offer, the capacity for love. The aliens had asked for pets, and humanity had given them predators that conquered not through violence but through the simple act of being loved. In return, those predators had transformed their conquerors into something new, something that combined the best of technological advancement with the emotional wisdom that Earth's harsh evolutionary pressures had forged. Elena smiled as she watched Tribune Corex gently stroke his rabbit's fur while discussing quantum mechanics with Engineer Voss, whose goldfish swam through holographic data streams with casual efficiency. Counselor Thys held her guinea pig close as she negotiated trade agreements that prioritized emotional well-being alongside economic benefit. They had asked for pets and received the gift of becoming fully alive. The galaxy would never be the same, and Elena couldn't imagine wanting it any other way.